Friends, we're about to begin services at this time for Pearl Grau. I would ask if anyone has a cell phone or any other noise-making device, if you take a moment now, please, to turn it off or place it in the silent mode as we begin our services. And officiating our services today is Rabbi Jeffrey Weil from Ezra Habanim, the Niles Township Jewish Congregation.
In the Bible, when something sad would happen, when there was a loss, something shocking would happen, our biblical figures, our forebears, would tear their garments. It was an act of kriya, in a sense, exposing the vulnerability that they were feeling in their hearts. And we do that today. Debbie will do that in a moment with the ribbon that you're wearing over your heart. It's the mitzvah is called kriya, tearing, and the blessing acknowledges God as the Dayan Ha'emet, the judge of truth. And Debbie, you'll repeat that blessing after me at this point. So Debbie, please rise. The psalmist asked, "What are we, O God, that you would have regard for us? What are we, O God, that you would be mindful of us? We are all of us just a breath. Our days are a passing shadow. We do come and go like grass, which in the morning it shoots up and is renewed, and in the evening of all of our lives it fades and withers. But God, you cause all of us to return unto dust, saying, Shuvu b'nei Adam, return, O mortal ones. Would that we were wise, and would that we understood whither we go from here. When we die, we carry nothing with us, not our glory, not our riches. But God, you say, mark the wholehearted, and behold the upright. Those are the ones who shall find peace. Friends, we gather today to remember one who was Tam v'yashar. She was wholehearted and upright, and she was creative and wise and funny, Pearl Grau, and loving. Adonai mi yagor b'ohalecha. Adonai, who may abide in your house? Who may dwell in your holy mountain? It is those who are upright, who pursue justice, who speak the truth. It is those who do not slander or bring shame upon others. It is those who keep far from lawlessness, but honor those who revere God. It is those who give their word, and come what may, do not retract. Those who live in this way shall not be shaken. You'll find in your handouts the 23rd Psalm, which we read at this time. Let's read together. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The third chapter of the book of Kohelet, or Ecclesiastes, expresses an idea that there is a time for everything, a purpose for everything that happens in this world. Sometimes that's actually a little difficult to accept, And we grapple with that particular issue and many others at this time of year as we are really on the eve of Rosh Hashanah, of welcoming a new year. But our tradition guides us in this direction, that there is a purpose for everything that happens in our lives. For everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot that which is planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace, a time when we must refrain from our embraces, a time to seek, a time to lose, a time to keep, a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, and a time to keep silence and a time to speak. And so this is a time to speak. Speak words in memory and tribute of Pearl Grau. I will speak, and then members of the family will be coming up as well. As I mentioned, 5784 is upon us, begins tomorrow night. Rosh Hashanah celebrates the beginning of everything. Sometimes we don't really fully appreciate that idea that Rosh Hashanah, by tradition, commemorates the beginning of absolutely everything. Hayom Harat Olam. Today is the birthday of Olam, the world, but really means like everything, all of existence, the whole cosmos. And when God, according to tradition, created everything, human beings were formed in a special way, B'Tselem Elohim, in the image of God. But you have to wonder, what does that mean? What does it mean to be formed, to be created B'Tselem Elohim? How is it that God formed us in God's image? God is God. We are human beings. So what does that mean? What is God's image? If you think about it, it must be a wildly, unimaginably diverse image, because God is the creator of everything, and God encompasses everything. So God's image must be unimaginable. So we're all in some way created in that image, somehow. But some individuals truly demonstrate a greater diversity, like God's diversity. Not like God exactly, of course, but more expressing that broadness that God does. They reflect the grandness, the variegated splendor of our Creator. And Pearl Grau was really such a person. There's really so much to this person. When I asked the family a couple nights ago to just say, like, what comes to mind when you think of her, there are so many words and so many attributes that I had trouble fitting it all on the spot on my page. There was so much that you mentioned about her. She was funny, she was smart, she was strong and determined, she was loving, she had a sense of justice, she was creative and talented, and she was full of knowledge, and she was absolutely wise. She was primarily concerned for her family, but she was absolutely concerned as well for the world, for others. And following the most important of our commandments, she pursued justice. She also experienced adversity, tragedy even, and yet during that time she was able to be a comfort to others, even in the midst of her own pain. This was a woman who was, in a word which one of you used, just incredible. She was from Benton Harbin, Michigan, youngest child and only daughter of Barney and Lena. Her parents were active in the vibrant Jewish community there, in which there were Reform, Conservative, and Orthodox congregations. She was particularly close to her older brother, Harold, who would take her driving out on back roads. Pearl graduated high school. She was smart. She graduated early. And she would have been a great asset to a college student body. But her parents said, no, that was not to be. They weren't going to pay for that. It was not typical at that time, or certainly not expected, for a young woman to be attending college. Pearl was disappointed. Perhaps this explains, over the years, her extreme interest and pride in all her grandchildren and great-grandchildren and their educational progress and achievements. But Pearl was really like a classic autodidact. She didn't have that formal learning post-high school, but she taught herself, autodidaction. She was a voracious reader. She learned. She read from her early years to her latest years. Her reading interests, like her, were very varied. Art, culinary material, biographies, newspapers like the New York Times and the Trib, and yes, the occasional romance, because why not? Among the wise counsel that she shared with her family was, if you have a book, you'll never be lonely. Her brother introduced her to a friend, Marty. Marty was Harold's age, and they married. Marty and Pearl were married by Rabbi Solomon Goldman in his study at Anshe Emet. I can tell you from personal experience that rabbis do not remember every single bride and groom. It's just impossible, and certainly not everything that every bride wore. But I'm going to hazard a guess that Rabbi Goldman remembered Pearl and her dress, because I'm guessing that she's the only bride that the esteemed rabbi who married who wore a purple suit and a purple hat. I asked, what does this say about her that she would do that? I mean, today you might find that on rare occasions. Back then, I think you probably found it on extremely rare occasions. But what does that say about her? It demonstrates her natural creativity, a certain self-confidence, and her lack of concern about following conventional paths. Purple for your wedding? Why not? Pearl and Marty moved to New York for a while, and because they were cultured people, they imbibed the cultural richness of that great city. And then they raised their daughters, Debbie and Barbara, in Michigan and Ohio. Pearl became involved in real estate. She headed up relocation services for W.A. White, a major real estate concern. And at home, Pearl was relatively strict, certainly more so than Marty. Marty would joke around. They were both funny and they both joked around. But if Marty was joking around with his daughters, making believe at bedtime or past bedtime that he banged his head and was hurt, and they were joking around, Pearl would march in and say, "It's bedtime." But again, this is not to say that Pearl Grau did not possess a sense of humor. She certainly possessed a sense of humor. She was very funny. The family was involved in their Reform congregation. Marty would write the parodies. Pearl, who was creative in manifold ways, including in the kitchen, culinary ways, would make the egg rolls from scratch. Pearl and Marty were also co-presidents of the PTA, so they were involved people in their community. They also enjoyed more exotic pursuits. They enjoyed traveling together and as a family, and Pearl had a sense of adventure, boldly, and I saw the picture, taking a primitive chairlift before they had the crossbars on the chairlifts. And judging from the picture that you showed me, she was thoroughly enjoying and exhilarated by the experience. She really lived by one of the pearls of wisdom that Pearl shared: keep laughing and learning, something that she did and that we all should. Pearl and Marty moved here to Chicago in 1984 to be near Debbie and Barbara and their families, sons-in-law, Mike and Bob, and their grandchildren, David, Rebecca, Leah, and Allison. For a time, Pearl was using her real estate background to collaborate with Barbara to combat discriminatory housing practices. She particularly loved taking her grandchildren, to the Art Institute. She relished teaching them about art, but she didn't really love art. She had an eye for art. She understood art, purchasing a Warhol early on, a very astute eye she must have had. Later, she volunteered at the Art Institute, and she had a knack for directing families who came in to exhibits that they might enjoy. Pearl Grau possessed truly an indomitable spirit, and she needed it, for there was sadness. There was sadness and loss, and there was deep sadness and deep loss. Yes, Marty died after 45 years of their marriage in 1987. But then Barbara died, her daughter. She died at only 50 years old. Of course, nothing compares to losing a child. And the pain for Pearl was obviously searing, and it was deep. Pearl was not one to really outwardly, kind of very openly display her grief, but she definitely displayed her love and her sensitivity, particularly to Allison, her granddaughter, understanding that just as she, Pearl, had lost a granddaughter, that Allison had lost a mother. So Pearl pulled Allison in. Grandmother and granddaughter grew close in shared grief. Of course, it was a grief that you all shared. Bob, Debbie, all of you together. Yet Pearl was one, she soldiered on. She persevered. Her humor continued, her reading, her playfulness, it all continued. Her volunteering continued. And her love for this family just grew as the family grew. Pearl warmly welcomed into the family Michelle, Brad, and Andrew. She was really developing as the years went on, and with Pearl Grau, the years really did go on, living to 105, but she possessed that appropriate alchemy of qualities to make her a role model and a matriarch to this growing family and to others beyond the family as well. She had what it took. She was so smart. She was so well-read. She was a keen observer of people. She learned from experience the greatness and the grief. And she had that sense of humor and that sense of justice. She was a good judge of character. She was just a wise person. She also taught other bits of matriarchal or grandmotherly wisdom when she, with a gentle scolding, as you told me, said that grandchildren should stand up and come to the door when she arrived. And what's right is right. Her caretakers, Fritzy, Jeffrey, Sarah, and Ellen, also benefited from their charge. The person that they were supposed to be taking care of, they were learning from her wisdom. Pearl welcomed them and shared with them as only one with such a big heart and sharp mind could do. She was also deeply blessed, and it went both ways, to have 6 great-grandchildren, their age spanning really a generation: Paige, Ariel, Harrison, Max, Penelope, and Leo. Pearl Grau lived through 105 New Years, or maybe 104 New Years. But she was 105 years old. She could not have achieved that longevity, and she would not have had the quality of life that she enjoyed without the steady, caring, loving attention and companionship of Debbie, her daughter. I've heard about this, your care of her, over the years, Debbie, and it's really an inspiration. Pearl lived long, yes, but more impressive and more important than her years or the length of them, the number of them, was the manner of them, the deep manner in which she lived. Day by day, year after year, book after book, laugh after laugh, relationship upon loving relationship, egg roll rolling after egg roll that she made from scratch, and so on, all with abundant wisdom that she generously shared. We measure our lives at this season, and the measure of your lives, it has diminished, for you have lost someone central and significant. But may it also expand by the memory of her and the lessons learned. As we approach Yom HaZikaron, Day of Remembrance, you will remember her, Pearl Grau, with the gratitude and the honor and the love that she bestowed upon you. Zichrona Livracha, may her memory be for blessing. Amen. First, pleased to call forward Debbie and Mike.
be repeating something.
Oh, that's okay.
So when my when my mom turned 100, we had the opportunity to be together, the family, and we got a chance to say things to her, which was so absolutely wonderful. So I just want to share a little bit with you. And I may be repeating some things that the rabbi already said. Mom, you have brains in your head. You have feet in your shoes. You have steered yourself any direction that you choose. I just changed the wording a little from Dr. Seuss's book, The Places You'll Go. The words are so true. You are an amazing woman. You defy the ages. You remain quick-witted, well-read, and know more about tennis and the stock market than I ever will. Barbara, Dad, and I have been so lucky to have you in our lives. I have so many memories. You were definitely the one in our house to set the rules, but you did so with love. Dad would come into our room at night to say goodnight and pretend to hit his head on the way out of the room, which set Barbara and me into gales of laughter. Enter Mom. You were not happy. You immediately told us to get to sleep, which we had no intention of doing, because once you left the room, we each had flashlights and climbed under the covers to read. You instilled this desire of reading early in our lives. I remember that Barbara, when she was older, would stay up all night to finish a book. You have always been the brave one in our family. One incident comes to mind. We were on one of our many family vacations to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, where there was a ski lift. You said, I'm going up. Mind you, it was a chair with no restraint on it, and it was going up a mountain. Well, you started up with no fear. The rest of us looked at each other and decided reluctantly to follow you, which turned out to be a lot of fun, even though I was white-knuckled as I gripped the bar. Another memory was when you wanted to take Barbara and me out of school for the high holidays and asked for an excused absence. The superintendent refused to excuse us. You politely said that you would be happy to send us to school during the Christmas holidays, to which the superintendent replied, Mrs. Grau, we can't do that. I think the superintendent might have been replaced the following year. You were also unfazed in letting us spread our wings. Barbara lived in Paris in high school and lived in Switzerland in high school and worked in Paris after finishing college. I hitchhiked in Europe with my friends while in college. You gave us the courage to experience new things. Mom, you have always been ahead of your time. You are the only person I know who has painted your bathroom ceiling yellow while leaving the walls white. You redid your kitchen while you were in your 80s, living with boxes of cabinets in your living room for several weeks. You still love reading and still enjoy art, the stock market, and tennis. And your strong feelings for equal rights were very evident while working in fair housing, as they are today. About a month ago, you gave me your mahjong set, which Dad had given to you on your 43rd birthday on December 3rd, 1960. Inside was a note from Dad which said, with no strings attached, this set was given to me by my ever-loving dear husband on my birthday, and he signed it Marty Grau. So, Mom, as you approach 100 years of age, that you keep say, keep laughing and learning, and that's what we will continue to do.
I first met Pearl and Marty And I was very impressed with their liberal values. And I thought this was a good example for all the children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. Actually, it's a recent article about the work Pearl did. It doesn't mention her by name, but if anybody's interested, you can look it up in the New Yorker. Just put in Shaker Heights, and it talks about efforts to integrate Shaker Heights, Ohio, where Pearl and her family lived, and projects she was involved with to integrate the suburb of Shaker Heights. Pearl and Marty moved to Chicago. They were so helpful with caring for the children, grandchildren. Words can't express it. Pearl lived to past 105. How many people have a 105th birthday party? And I won't sing it for you, but we did sing the song, the old Frank Sinatra song, 105 and being alive and all the things that you'll do. So, I think this was wonderful. But it only happened because of many people. Debbie's help with Pearl was unremarkable. It was just so good. I can't express it with words, but she was always there for Pearl and making sure Pearl got cared for. And Pearl had excellent caregivers, for which we wouldn't have been able to keep Pearl in independent living, and she was in independent living till about a month before she passed away. I'm going to ask them to stand up and be acknowledged. We have at least 4 who are here.
Sally and
Yeah,
Esther.
I know. Fritzy, Jeffrey, Sally, and Esther. Please stand. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Debbie and Mike. It was beautiful. Pearl's granddaughter, Rebecca, and Brad.
It's difficult to summarize the last 48 years of my life with Grandma Pearl. There's so many wonderful, beautiful memories we had together over the years. I'm very grateful that I got to be a part of Grandma's life into my adult years. Grandma helped me with the purchase of my former condo and even went with me to get a mortgage. I learned so much from Grandma about buying real estate and getting a mortgage. When I was going through getting a mortgage again last year for the purchase of our house, I remember what Grandma had taught me about all the documents needed. What I am most grateful for is that Grandma got to meet my son, Leo. When I was in my first trimester of pregnancy, I hadn't told any family yet about my pregnancy. During that time, Grandma got very sick, was in the hospital, and was diagnosed with sepsis. The prognosis was not looking good. I remember sitting on a bench at Millennium Park near work, calling Brad and crying about Grandma possibly not being able to meet our child. Then, as Grandma always did, she bounced back and was okay. I told Grandma about my pregnancy during my second trimester, and I will never forget her face. She lit up with the biggest smile and was so excited. Then Grandma got to come to the hospital the day after Leo was born and hold him. I'm beyond happy that Grandma got to be a part of Leo's life for 3.5 years. Grandma and Leo enjoyed their love of peanut M&Ms together and all kinds of other sweet treats. At Grandma's 105th birthday, Leo sat next to Grandma and started talking away to her. She called him Little Joey ever since I was pregnant with him, and she loved when I brought Leo for visits. I'll remember and treasure Grandma's smile and sense of humor. Grandma had so much wisdom and appreciated life. Grandma used to tell me to make lemonade out of lemons and to make sure that I always have money because you never know when it'll be needed. I enjoyed learning from Grandma and hearing her advice. I will miss you so much, Grandma. You are an inspiration to me, and the memories of you will be carried on forever. I will think of you when at McDonald's with Leo and I eat a hot fudge sundae. You will be in my thoughts when I eat a slice of Costco pizza. I will always be on the lookout for dark chocolate M&Ms, Fannie Mae s'mores, and Fannie Mae mint meltaways. All of your favorites will become even more special to me now. I know you are watching over all of us and protecting us. I see you laughing, dancing, and enjoying endless quantities of all your favorite foods. I will take care of Mom. I know you always worried about her, but she is in good hands. I can never say goodbye to you, Grandma, because you will always be in my memories. I will keep you alive in my heart through the memories, pictures, and videos. You won't ever be forgotten. I love you always and forever. Love always, your back.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Pleased to call forward Leah and Andrew, and Max and Penelope.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Pearl, granddaughter's Leah's husband. I've known Pearl for almost 20 years. And loved her like my own flesh and blood. She was an incredible person. She had class beyond belief and told it like it was. She taught us to live by her life's mantra, laughing and learning. When we saw Pearl last month, my children, Max and Penelope, were so happy to see her, to make her laugh. Max and Penelope put Penelope's knitted headband on their great-grandmother's head. We all made silly faces and laughed. Through the years, Pearl showed us the importance of keeping it light and fun. She taught us that true enjoyment and fulfillment comes from spending time with family. So great go-go. We're going to miss our time together, especially when we come to Chicago. You honestly had more class than anyone I've ever met. And I like the story that I heard about when she made the grandkids come up. That was great, when she would visit. Know that we loved you truly and deeply. You had a family who adored you, and a daughter, Debbie, that gave you a life filled with dignity, freedom, and kindness. Thank you for the incredible memories, especially those with Max and Penelope. You're a bright light in our lives, and your memory will always be a blessing.
Thank you, truly gorgeous, gorgeous tributes. Thank you so much. And now, Pearl's son-in-law, Bob Kohler.
I don't know what to say. I'm filled with emotion. Mostly, I wanted to stand before you to bring the spirit of my daughter to the funeral. My daughter Allison, who was just in town. She lives in Paris. She was just in town. She left just barely a week ago, and she and Pearl had such a connection, so much love. Every time Allison came to town, the absolute very first thing we did was go over to see Pearl. She would, Pearl, especially in the later years, would mostly be lying in her bed. Allison would just lie next to her, and they would cuddle for however long was necessary. And, I love you, and it was just so touching and warm. And Allison sends her blessing absolutely, to this moment today. I want to bring the spirit of my late wife, Barbara, her younger daughter, who absolutely loved her mother. Although when they went out to eat, they would always argue over who pays. And, Barbara would, Pearl, never mind. No, I got it. Anyway, other than that, it was an absolutely beautiful, loving connection. And so I guess Pearl has gone to join Barbara. So it's been a beautiful and totally wonderful for me to be part of this family. And Pearl, I loved you. I miss you. 105, unbelievable. What an unbelievable woman. And yeah, keep laughing and learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you so much. Adonai Natan v'Adonai Lakach, Yehishim Adonai Mevorach. The Lord has given, the Lord has taken. Blessed be the name of the eternal God. O God, into your hand we entrust the spirit of Pearl Grau. For you keep faith with your children in death as in life. Sustain all of us, O God, that we may meet with tranquility the mysteries that lie ahead for us, knowing that when we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you, O God, will be with us as a loving friend in whom we put our trust. You are the light of our lives and our hope in eternity. Please rise as we conclude with the El Malei Rachamim, the memorial prayer. El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Hamatzei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Hashchina, Im Kedoshim Utehorim, Kezoha Harakim Hasirim, Et Nishmat, Pesha Hayikara Shalanu, Shalcha Le'olamam. Baal HaRachamim Yasirecha, Beseter Kenafav Le'olamim, V'yitzor B'tzor HaChaim Et Nishmatam, Adonai Hu Nachalatam, B'tanuach B'shalom, Al Mishkava, V'nomar, Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence with the holy and the pure who glow like the light of the heavens, to Pearl Grau, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence and within the shadow of your wings. Let her soul be bound up in the bond of life everlasting. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And we say, Amen. Thank you. You may be seated.
Friends, this concludes the services here at our chapel. The interment will continue at Westlawn Cemetery in Norridge. Following the interment, the family will be together at the Rhinestein residence. That's 8928 North Kilpatrick in Skokie, and that's today from 2:30 p.m. until 9 p.m., and also Friday from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. That information is available inside the folders that you received today as you arrived. It's also available on our website as well for those of you who have joined us in the live stream today. For those of you going in procession, we'll ask that you please keep a few safety measures in mind. Please make sure that you follow the car in front of you as closely as safety permits to avoid any gaps in the procession. Please make sure your bright headlights and your hazard lights are on at all times during the procession. And please make sure to obtain from our staff an orange funeral safety sticker that you'll place on the passenger side of your front windshield. Acting as pallbearers today are Pearl's grandchildren. At this time, I'll ask everyone to please rise and ask the pallbearers to come forward as I call your name. Rebecca and Bradley Berzin, Leah and Andrew Madoff, and David and Michelle Rhinestein.